Okay, so good morning. We are going to go ahead and get started this morning. Yes, I am recording this session. My name is Julie Workman. I'm the Instructional Leadership and Learning Specialist board. I know that we have many from outside our region who are here, and we are glad that you're here today with us. Happy to share that information and share the wealth with Virtual Arkansas. So today's session is kind of a step 2 for us. Last Friday, we did our digital program training, and we just kind of laid out the guidebook and the process and all of those steps. And Lisa Russell with Team Digital is with us and did a wonderful job with that. Rachel Shell, our tech coordinator, so supporting her. And then Karen Norton, our R&R, is also on our team. So we are here helping you guys, answering your questions. We will mostly be monitoring the chat today because we are going to go ahead and turn this over to Ashworth and his staff as they talk through Virtual Arkansas. And so really what they're going to be sharing with you is first about their program, but then going into that digital learning plan and helping you to really see what those pieces are if you are going with Virtual Arkansas. They have done a lot of work to help you in terms of filling out that plan. So John, I will go ahead and turn it over to you. And Rachel Shell is also manning the chat. So questions down there for Rachel or Kirsten, if you'll put those in the chat, we will be responding as John starts.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. With me, I have today Kirsten Wilson. She's our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And what I want to go over with you right now is not just an overview of our whole program. I think most of you are well aware of generally of Virtual Arkansas and what we provide to the state. But I am going to specifically talk about 7th and 8th grade content plus teacher and 9th through 12th grade content plus teacher, those offerings, particularly how it relates to 100% virtual students. And we're going to have a good conversation about the digital learning plan and hopefully provide some much needed guidance on some language that you can use in that document. Okay, so first of all, the 7th and 8th grade content plus teacher. Let me make sure I'm on the right page. There we go. On this page, and you're going to get a copy of this, and it's also on our website. You can look at the course catalog, and it'll have all this information. And you can look through here. I've met with many of you regarding our 7th and 8th grade programming options, our course options. And that's what we have. So I'm not going to go over every word on this, but you can look it over. You can have this slide. Also, if you want to meet with us individually, just give me an email. I'll also show you how you can set up a meeting on our website. I do want to go over some specific considerations. So as you look into utilizing Virtual Arkansas for especially your 100% option, these are the things that you should be considering or looking into as you're looking into the 100% virtual option. And that is, number one, test proctoring. So you're going to have a local plan on how to ensure trained proctors, which we train the proctors, are providing that student testing, watching over the students as they test. There's lots of different plans out there. There's not a cookie cutter approach. You can do what's best for your district. And if you want to give me a call or set up a meeting, I can go over what I'm seeing throughout the state on that. Local facilitator, extremely important component to student success. We call it the triad, the relationship between the teacher, the facilitator, and the student. In a 100% virtual environment, it is going to look a little different. There's not going to be quite as much time dedicated, but you do need procedures in place locally for a facilitator to work with the teacher, but also monitor the students and relay concerns if a student is falling behind or is appearing to have difficulty not logging in, things like that. You want to make sure to get the appropriate people involved locally at the school. Number 3 on here, it's traditional pacing. probably 98% of our pacing anyway is traditional pacing. Traditional pacing, if you don't know what I mean by that, that just means we follow the same type of pacing that you would at a local school. In other words, there's a pacing guide, and the students and the teacher follow that pacing guide through 9 weeks in a semester and so on. In our normal 9 through 12 environment, we do have a flex pace where students can work at their own pace. We're not offering that in the 7th and 8th grade realm, especially this first pilot year. The cost per enrollment, we get a lot of questions about that. I think we put the cost per enrollment out widely, but it's $200 for 7th and 8th grade. Our 9th through 12th grade offerings are not changing. It's the courses are in between $60 and $100. Most of our courses are in the $80 to $100 range. We do have one course that's going to be $120, but that's the unmanned aerial, the drone class is $120. It's just because of the software involved in that course. But for our 7th and 8th grade, it's $250 per half unit. 9-week courses, because we do have 9-week wheel built in. Each 9 week is $125. If we're doing the math, you look at one student for a year-long course, one student for a year, that's $500 for the year. If they were in the program for all 6 courses or 6 periods of courses that are offered, it's $3,000 a year. I do have questions about, invoicing, and I'm going to go over some invoicing and questions and answers here in just a second. But I want to give you a quick scenario. If a student takes the first semester, but you want to pull them back in, or the student wants to pull back in at semester, are we obligated for the year? No, you're not obligated. You're not obligated for the year. When invoicing goes out, it's only for one semester. So each semester is independent of the other. And here's a description of invoicing. So next year on invoicing, 20 school days after the first day of school on our calendar, which is going to be very similar to most districts' calendar, an invoice will go out. If there's a student in the course at that time, then you will get invoiced for that student. We have 3 rounds. The second round is at the end of the first or the third 9 weeks, depending on which semester you're in. If there's a student that wasn't in the first round, they'll get in the second round, they'll get invoiced again. Round 3 goes into the second 9 weeks or the fourth 9 weeks. And if there's a student that comes in only for the 9 weeks, the second or the fourth 9 weeks, then they're only going to be invoiced 1/2 of that enrollment fee. We do get a lot of questions about advanced students. What if we have a 7th and 8th grade student that is, going to take Algebra 1 instead of Math 8, or they're going to take physical science instead of 8th grade science? Absolutely, you can do that. You can put those students in the high school courses as long as you have approval locally to offer those as a credit for 7th and 8th graders. And that will work. And the pricing will be the high school course price. Enrolling students, we get a lot of questions about when do we enroll students. You enroll students at the end of April, just like we do every year. The next year starts at the end of April for enrollment. We always have our annual update, which we go over any updates to our system, policies, anything like that. And then right after that, we open up enrollment for the next year. If you're going to use 7th and 8th grade, we understand that you're probably not going to know exactly who's going to be in that course. We don't have a deadline to enroll. So even if it's up against school or right at the beginning of school next year, you can still enroll that student. The only thing we ask is you enroll them as soon as you know that that student's going to be in the course. That helps us plan in case we need to staff up or anything like that. Special population students. We also get a lot of questions about special population students, ELLs, special education, GT, all those special population students. The services have to be provided by the local district. If there's a meeting that has to be scheduled, a conference, then that's done locally at the school. So we don't provide any of those services. However, we do accommodate students with modifications or anything needed within the course. That's not a problem. So we can implement any modifications or applicable modifications to the online environment. That's not an issue, and we've never had an issue with that. Now, there's a few things I wanted to share with you. And once you get this PDF, you can click on it, but you can also go to our website. 3 really good resources for you. The course catalog, the new course catalog, which a lot of you probably already received. If you receive the newsletter, you know that we have the 2021-22 course catalog available to you. It's on our website. You can go to that anytime, but if you get this presentation, you can just click on it. The parent guide, I want you to know that the parent guide is a great resource for you. A lot of schools are using this just when students, when they're trying to decide whether they even want to do online learning with their child, you can provide this to them. It gives them a realistic view of online learning, what kind of skills the students can have that are going to help them be successful. It's a great document that we have available to you. You can get that on our website. A lot of schools have that on the ready. They have it printed out, and I've seen schools that will actually just hand it to students or to parents when they ask about 100% virtual or online learning. The Virtual Arkansas Services, it's a great place. It's the very first tab on our website. It shows we have 4 primary services. Look through there, and if you have questions, you can always call me. You can always email me. You can always email Miss Wilson, who's here with us today. But a great way to just set up a meeting with us is to go to our website. You click on the services there, and then under the Content Plus Teacher, you're going to see this everywhere on the website. Though is a place where it says to request more information or set up a meeting. Click here. If you just click there and you fill out your name, your school, and your email address, we're going to set up a meeting with you. So we've done that for dozens of school districts already. So feel free to go to our website, click that, and we'll immediately set up a meeting with you. So if you need to contact me directly, or if you need to contact Miss Wilson, there's our email addresses. You can also call. I put out email or newsletter that had my cell number on it. So you're welcome to call my cell phone as well. And now, I think this is the most important part about this, and that is providing you assistance with your digital learning plan, because everybody probably looks at that and feels a little overwhelmed. And so what we did is Arch Ford and Virtual Arkansas, Miss Wilson and myself, and several people from Arch Ford got together, and we put in language for you. Now, we can't fill the whole thing out, but we were able to fill in a lot of the boxes for the digital learning plan. The only thing that we want to warn you about is there's a lot of information that each local district has to put into the digital learning plan. We can only fill out so much. You can copy and paste. We don't mind you doing that. Make sure that you complete the areas that are highlighted. So anywhere that you need to place information or a statement about what your local school or district is doing, it's highlighted. I think it's cyan. I'm not good with colors, but and we're gonna show you that.
Hey, John, we have a question in the chat real quick. Kirsten has kind of answered, but someone's asking, can you clarify a little bit more about the special ed services? We know it's up to the local district to set up meetings, but do you meet the needs of sped minutes for like resource or inclusion? So do you want to add anything that on that?
Yeah, so our teachers, you're just going to look at them like you would at any general education teacher, right? So if there's an inclusion teacher that needs to be provided, we can assist with that, but we don't provide an inclusion special education teacher with students. Any services, any additional resources that are needed for that student will have to be provided by the local district. So what the best way that I can explain it is look at our teacher as your teacher, and whatever you would do for your teacher, you would do for our teacher. And as far as additional supports for, a special population student, I hope that.
I also say in situations where you might have a student that is pushed in for inclusion and has some sort of support specialist that works with the classroom teacher, we oftentimes train the inclusion support teacher like you would a facilitator, and give them the same access as a facilitator would have, and communicate in the same way that we would communicate with a facilitator on campus. But this would be specific for this student that's needing that inclusion support and possible resource support. So that's one of the ways that we partner with the local school, but we do not have a SPED specialist on board with us that can provide that support. And so that's where we would rely on you. I will assure you that our teachers follow the IEP 504 LEP guidelines and those modification and accommodation sheets that are uploaded to us. And we have our systems and our accessibility of our courses set up to serve those needs and those necessary accommodations, modifications that will be on the 504 and IEP. And our teachers will work very closely with the schools to ensure those are implemented. And it is correct that we do not have a special ed teacher.
So when you click on that, or we're going to provide this at the end, I think that's been said in the chat, we're going to provide this, but when you click the link, it's going to force you to make a copy. So you're going to have your own personal copy of this digital learning plan, the guidance document that we have. And so I'm going to let Dr. Workman talk about this first page real quick, and then we'll go on with the rest, or I'll let Ms. Wilson go on with the rest of it.
Okay, so with the digital learning plan, that very first page is the waivers, and we have had several questions about how do you fill this part out. The main thing that we want you to focus on right now is, even though this is the first thing that you see in the plan, it's actually the last thing that you want to go back and fill out. The reason for that is until you filled out all that other information to really know what does the comprehensive plan for our district look like, you don't know which waivers you need. Okay, so what we're telling people right now, we are still early in this process. So if you want to just kind of ignore this part for a little bit in terms of those waivers, and that's why you're going to see here on this informational sheet that it's all just blank right now, because that's going to be district specific based on what you decide to provide to your students. If you are only using Virtual Arkansas 100%, that's going to look one way. If you have Virtual Arkansas for some students, and then you have blended options, and maybe you have something different happening with K6, that will look totally different for you. Okay, so this is one of those that in about 2 weeks, we're going to go back, and then we're going to share a specific session on waivers and kind of help you think through that. But as for right now, we're just going to move on past this part and get into the actual plan, because what Virtual Arkansas has done is they've taken that information. If you're going to use them for 100% virtual students, whether it's for all of your 100% virtual or a portion of them, they've got the language there to help you on that part. So waivers are blank now.
So one thing I want to make clear is that if you're using Virtual Arkansas as a traditional, in the traditional way, so traditionally 99 point whatever percent of our students take their course from the school in a digital learning lab with a facilitator. You do not have to fill this out for those students. That's the traditional supplemental program, and you do not have to have a digital learning plan for that. You do have to have this digital learning plan if you're using Virtual Arkansas for 100% virtual students, where they're spending their time outside of the classroom. And I believe Dr. Workman can correct me if I'm incorrect. If you have a student that's kind of that's kind of part at the school, part virtual, kind of half and half, then you will have to have a plan for that as well. What you're going to find in this plan, before I turn it over to Ms. Wilson, what you're going to find here is 100% virtual. The language that we use, we're assuming that you might use Virtual Arkansas for 100% virtual students. Please look at this document through that lens. It will be individual through every district. And you are going to have an own individual plan, but you are going to be able to use a lot of the language that we have in this plan, and it will help you out. Ms. Wilson, I'll let you I'll scroll, Ms. Wilson, if you want to just kind of talk about it.
Okay, that sounds good. So just talking and giving you guys a real picture of this, in my very own home, we have two different scenarios of virtual learning. I have my son who is at the school full-time, shows up in the morning when school starts, takes Virtual Arkansas classes as part of his day, but ends his day at the school and then comes home. I have my daughter who is also taking Virtual Arkansas classes, but she is in a blended environment where she comes to school for her electives in the morning, and then she leaves at noon and comes home and takes virtual in the afternoon. My son does not need this. This plan is not for my son. If you have someone like my son, you don't have to do this digital plan. If you have someone like my daughter or someone that's 100% virtual, like John said, this is the plan that you need to fill out. And so know that as I was writing this and working with our team as we were writing this, I was thinking about the scenarios that are happening in my very own home. So it was able to look through the lens. I will also say that as we wrote this stuff, I had the guidebook right next to the template as I went through to ensure that I was making sure, and Mr. Ashworth as well, we were using the same terminology that ADE had put in our guidebook for us for you to fill out this digital plan. So as you guys know, it says describe the manner in which and the frequency that you'll use and monitor the wellness and safety of students. That's the first thing that happens. And I just want you to know that while we can't address food security issues because we serve over 250 schools across the state, we can take care of the physical and mental health as best we can through an online environment. And I described that to you. And then I also want to mention there that we provide ongoing professional development to our teachers to support those SEL strategies. So that is a piece of that we do. And I don't know why, but I jumped too far, and I'm sorry, John. I thought I was at the next page. So some reason my page jumped. Let me go back. Interaction and delivery. So we do what's called a high touch learning experience. And some of you have already asked in the chat. And what that means is we have the benefit of synchronous or live instruction married with our aligned asynchronous courses. What that means in general Joe terms is that we provide live instruction, which that's synchronous, and then we have our courses that the kids can interact without live instruction, which is asynchronous. And I know that you've heard these words over and over again, and some of you probably have some sort of a game now for every time that term is used, that you get points or stars, or you're working towards a punch card. I don't know. But maybe I just helped you through to your goal on that. Then I also wanted to just provides for you in there the description of what we do. By our high touch approach, this allows our students and instructors to develop relationships and address needs for just time and instruction. One of the things that we do is we ask our teachers to work at least 2 weeks ahead of our students. And then we have pre-tests at the beginning of each of our modules so teachers can anticipate where there might be gaps in learning and provide additional instruction through those live Zooms. While we can't We can't require Zoom on our end for students to attend. We highly encourage it, and this is where the local schools can add their own requirements for attendance with Zoom. We do have empirical data that shows that when our students attend Zoom, they do better in our courses. And so we just talk a little bit about that as well. And so that can be pieces that you use. Delivery approach, we describe our delivery approach there. We do use our Canvas learning management system to do so. And I will tell you that this learning management system that we have utilized, we have vetted with fidelity. We've had experience in two other situations where we've used other learning management systems, and we've found that this is to be the most friendly for students. And then the way that we design it, it's consistent throughout the other courses. So, you know, a student, when they go to their math course in our learning management system, it's going to be the same as when they go into the ELA course or the literacy course. They're going to have the same step-in experience. And so if you look at it like a house platform or building, it goes straight into what they need. Then describe the expectation for teachers and instruction and interaction. For students utilizing the Virtual Arkansas courses, our teachers are actively monitoring that. You can read that information, not just for you to fill out, but to help you inform how Virtual Arkansas helps support your students. And then there are places that it's really a statement from you, but we put in considerations. If you look at the bottom of page 2, regarding waivers for class size, we have some considerations that we put in there to help guide you with that answer. And then
Kirsten,
yeah,
can you go ahead and share your screen? We can't,
yeah,
if you'll just share your screen, that way it'll be up with what you're doing.
absolutely. And so I was at the bottom of page 2 where I was talking about those waivers, where we just provide some considerations and guidance for you. In those situations where it's highlighted in blue and we said considerations, we do want you to use your own language and terminology, but we felt like we might be able to help you a little bit in that area, so we included that. Again, for utilizing the waivers when it's talking about teacher load, we make a note here about Virtual Arkansas partners with you guys to ensure student success. And really what we're trying to do is take the heavy lift for your teachers that are teaching in the face-to-face environment, where they're not having to do both the virtual and the face-to-face environment. And so that relieves some of that responsibility and that weight that some of your teachers have had to carry this year with that virtual situation. And then of course, we tell you what Canvas, that we use the Canvas learning management system. We also describe the content. If you are not aware of this, all of our content is reviewed by our subject matter experts in our courses, and about 94% of all of our courses are written by certified Arkansas subject matter experts and developed by certified Arkansas teachers to be delivered to your students. So you're not getting content that's delivered or that was designed based on possibly other standards and then retrofitted to fit Arkansas standards. Students will be utilizing Zoom video conferencing software, and it explains to you how that's utilized and supported so that you can work with your tech team in regards to that piece. And then the technology access, that's something that you'll have to work with your support team, your tech team on your campus. Matters and frequency, the school district will use to monitor wellness and safety. This, I talked a little about this earlier. I kind of skipped to this. I didn't realize my document had skipped to this page. But again, we don't address food security, but we do work with relationships with the school and students to ensure their social emotional learning with their physical and mental health. And we have our teachers trained in regards to that to report issues as they arise and also communicate with the local school district when there's concerns. Describe manner and frequency that they'll monitor academic and student engagement. We have several things in place, and then you guys will also have some wording that you will want to add to that. Academic response to intervention. I described that system that we have. Our teachers are trained on the RTI process. We have scheduled intervention meetings that we have with our teachers, as well as we've trained them with strategies for intervention, and expect that as part of what they do. And we have those specific intervention meetings that occur the 4th and 7th weeks of the 9 weeks, which are great places right before a progress report is sent out, and then a couple weeks before a report card is sent out, so that we have an opportunity to catch some things with kiddos that are working in an online environment. The school district's formative assessment plan for support student learning, we have embedded checks for understanding, but we've also trained our teachers to utilize Zoom for informal formative checks as we meet with the students on a weekly basis. And that's one of the ways we can also determine if there may be gaps in learning. And then with this dyslexia, while we do not provide dyslexia screening, we do have embedded tools that support students with dyslexia, including the tool ReadSpeaker. So you may want to include that as an additional support for your students. And then we also have all of our teachers trained on the secondary course content training, and have a Google folder that contains our ways that we provide gifted opportunities for learning in our courses, so that your gifted coordinator on site can have that as evidence for ADE. And then we have our supports for ESL as well as special education. We talked a little bit about how we support that. And then the guidelines that we follow, which are IDEA Section 508, we follow those guidelines that are that we meet there. We also use the web content accessibility guidelines in building our courses to ensure that they have all the accessibility requirements met. And we, in addition to that, follow the Universal Design for Learning principles to eliminate both visible and invisible barriers that could occur with learning. Teacher supports, we provide all the support for our teachers in regards to training and support for them. And that is very extensive and ongoing, and it is just in time professional development that we provide support for them. It's not one of those we give the teachers the students and the course, and then we say see you later at the end of the semester when we need the grades. We meet on a frequent basis. We have constant contact with our teachers so that we can support them and they can do the best for your students. And then we also talk about a plan for instruction based on options and the digital supports provided. We provided some language there that you can also use. Moving down, a detailed explanation of how the district will monitor and evaluate effectiveness of the digital options. We partner with the school, and we give you access to our student information system as well as the Canvas LMS. We train your facilitators to pull grades weekly from the SIS to monitor student progress. And we also have a Canvas app that reports grades through the Canvas app that parents can access as well, so that they can monitor on their end, as well as our teachers are asked to send weekly reports through the SIS messaging that is sent both to students and the parent email. We this year have dived headlong into engaging families. And when we went into remote instruction in March, we immediately knew that we needed to support families, because before that we had worked through the facilitators. And so we started doing parent webinars, and we provide them at multiple times and at different times of the day. We usually do one on a Sunday afternoon, and then we do 2 during the week. We try to pick days that are not really busy for families. For example, we won't pick a Wednesday night because that's church night. We try not to pick a Thursday night, because we know that that's usually the Thursday night football for our junior highs or our junior varsity. And we obviously will not pick a Friday night, because that is football night in the fall. But we try to pick usually a Monday night if we're going to pick one, because we know there's not a lot of activities happening on a Monday night. And we'll try to pick different times to try to hit different families, I guess, their schedules. If they can't make those, we also record them and send them out. And you can see here the parent guide is linked as well. And so we provide that. In addition, the last part is the policies, and that mostly relies on you all and your policies, but we do in regards to discipline policy for digital learning students and for grading policy for digital learning students. We have a student handbook that we've linked there, and we make mention of that it is paired with the local district's policy. We have certain things and certain guidelines that we follow, and students are expected to follow those guidelines in regards to the discipline policy and the MOU with the grading policy, but we partner with the schools, and the autonomy is still with the schools when addressing different issues. So that just gives you kind of a 411 on the digital learning plan.
Kirsten, this is Rachel. We have a couple of questions from the chat. So
Okay.
one is that they would like to know a little bit more about the engagement piece because it's one of their biggest struggles. You talked about a little bit of the parent engagement, and I know that your teachers do engagement. They want to know, do you document and report attendance? But I also know that you will make clear to them about Virtual Arkansas can provide a certain level of support, but the digital learning plan will also have to spell out how they will deal with the information you provide. So
I'll talk about the attendance and documentation piece, and Miss Wilson can talk more about the family engagement piece. But there is a way that facilitators can go into the system and pull activity reports. That's already embedded. One of the things that we are working with Genius, which to most of you, we call it the power panel. We're working with the power panel to make sure it provides a report on login activity. So in other words, so you can pull a report where there's students versus which day and whether or not they logged in. And so, because a lot of people are using that as their attendance, and so we're gonna build in a report that's really easy for you just to pull up, look at, yes, they did, or no, they did not log in for the day. You know, as far as reporting, no, we don't do individual reporting or provide individual reports regarding the student. Kirsten, you want to talk about the family engagement piece?
Absolutely. So family engagement piece, there's a couple of different ways that we want to engage families. One of the pieces that we do, like I said, was the webinar piece that we do at the beginning of each semester. And basically we just go through a general overview of what your student's course looks like, when you go in and sit with your student and go through a course, things that you can notice and pay attention to. For example, if they have the little red button where their little messages in LMS canvassing has like 15, that means that they're not checking their messages. And we give parents some really specific guidance in those areas. In addition to that, we have a parent liaison that we encourage parents to reach out to. And of course, if we have accurate emails, our teachers are encouraged to email parents and parents to email the teachers and have that interaction back and forth. We will include our schools in conversations when we have different challenges that arise regarding that, and we really want our parents involved. We know how important it is for our parents to be involved. And so we try to be available at hours that maybe parents can be available. We know with our middle school and high school kids, oftentimes those kids are left at home to do the work and parents have gone to work. And so there's not that parent there overshadowing and looking at them. So we try to provide multiple ways to communicate with the parents. We are continuing to expand on ways to involve our parents. We're working on really bolstering our web information that we have on our website to help parents there as well. And then providing tips and tricks, encouraging our parents to follow our Facebook page, because we provide tips that come from a student voice on how you navigate and you're successful in an online environment. And a lot of those tips and tricks that we provide there are very helpful for parents. And then we also have our facilitators that we showcase that provide different tips and tricks on how they help students be successful online. So we encourage our parents to also look at those facilitator tips and tricks, because sometimes there's some things that facilitators may be doing at the campus that are very applicable for parents to do to support students as well. So we have a variety of ways that we're encouraging that parent involvement. And this spring, we are sending out a survey to our parents because we have more parents involved and we want to hear how can we do things better. So we are incorporating that parent survey in order to bolster and improve our processes as well. Mr. Ashworth, there's a question on there about those that use content with the attendance report, if it's content only.
Yes, I answered that on there.
Okay.
That was Miss Gardner. Yes, if it's content only. So Miss Gardner was asking if that report's available if you're not using our teacher, but you're just using the content. So we have two ways that you can use our content. If you look at our services, one's content only. The second is what we call, it used to be called consortium. That name's officially been changed to content partnership. But as long as it's content only, yes, that report's available.
Okay, do we have other questions for Virtual Arkansas?
Julie, would now be a good time to pop that PDF of the presentation in there?
And I just wanted to pop in, I know John and Kirsten said this, but this is something that we've been helping schools with, is if you're using Virtual Arkansas and they are providing you with attendance reports, you will need to make sure you make clear in your digital learning plan how you're going to take that information and what support you're going to provide. So if you find out that students aren't regularly attending, you'll have to provide steps in your plan for what you will do with the information you're getting from Virtual Arkansas. I hope that makes sense.
There's a question that Christine asked earlier, and Christine, I apologize. I remember that question. I was going to answer it as I was going through the form, and then it just slipped my mind. If you already have a facilitator on campus that you're using for kiddos that are taking just some courses, but they're staying on site, that same facilitator can be used for those virtual students as well. If you only have a few students off site for, and like you said, the 35. In your situation, are you just going to have a facilitator for virtual and you're not using for any kind of like students that may take a course or two from us through our other courses? Okay, so in the case of if you have 35 students, this might be a situation where you might facilitate the support of a possible media specialist that could help with that. I don't know exactly what your setup is with your school, but if you have a situation where you have a junior high or high school media specialist, they may be your best option to support those 35 virtual students, and then just possibly make sure that you have provided time and space for them to have kind of office hours where they can attend to those specific students, where maybe a paraprofessional comes in and monitors the library so that they can focus on working on those virtual kids for a certain amount of time. You may want to have a couple of members on your team that can respond to messages that may come for your students that are in a virtual environment, that are because they may communicate with you throughout the day about a question if they're setting up a time to come in to have a proctored test. And they want to, they need to make those responses in those plans, have a couple of people that can monitor, and maybe have like a Google schedule sheet so that several have access to, so that you guys can kind of work as a team to support that. But for 35 students, I would not say that you would need to hire an additional person or a paraprofessional for that.
No, we don't have any empirical data about that specifically, because most of our enrollments are in like I said earlier, they're taking their course at school. But if you had 35 students that were 100% virtual, I'll just provide a suggestion. I can't provide any data to back this up, but I would look at that like probably a 2/7 employee. I mean, kind of look at it like a teacher. You know, a teacher can't have more than 30 students in a period. That's the way I would probably look at it, especially going into this year. But like Ms. Wilson said, there's no cookie cutter approach. You can do this in many different ways. I mean, I've seen people develop partnerships with the local library and train the librarian and the community librarian so they can use that as a testing center as well. I mean, there's lots of approaches you can use with this, and if you have a large number of students, it might justify having a person totally dedicated to those students in a space dedicated to those students coming in and getting support or training. So you can always contact us, set up a meeting. We can go over those options, and I can relay to you some of the things that I'm seeing throughout the state.
What we're trying to do, this is Christine, is we're trying to decide, do we need specific math teachers and people that are certified in math, social studies, science, and language arts that are the facilitators, or so that they can answer questions. This year, what we've done, you know, as with everybody probably, is teachers are doing face-to-face and virtual, and it's just been so hard. And
Right.
Nobody feels like they're doing a good job at anything because they're just keeping their head above water.
I will say, Christine, that you do not have to have a certified teacher in a subject matter to support a virtual student taking that actual subject, because that's what our teachers are. And our teachers are highly available. They'll be doing Zooms at least 2, hopefully maybe 3 times a week. We're still looking at how we're going to set that up, but they'll be doing 2 active Zooms a week, possibly 3. They have the Canvas messaging system. They are directed to not let a message go more than 24 hours without a response, so that they're responding to those students. And in most situations, unless a teacher is Zooming back to back and cannot get to a reply, our teachers will reply to Zooms within a couple of hours. There's sometimes situations where they have Zooms that go long and they don't get a break to check messages, and it may be the next morning before they reply. But in most situations, they are responding very quickly. We just, we say give them 24 hours because there are things that happen, you know, like this week we've had teachers that their internet's gone down, or they've lost power. So we've asked for, when teachers haven't responded, for our students and our parents just to bear with us until we can get back to them.
Great questions. Do we have any more questions?
Okay, so we have linked information in the chat. You should have access to the PDF of the slideshow. Kirsten has added the document. If you want that, it'll force a copy so that then it's your copy, and you're welcome to take any information that would be helpful off of that plan. I've also added to the chat, if you're wanting access to the recording or any of this information, if you just check the Arch Board February updates, the link is there. All of that information is linked at the top under number 1, where it talks about digital learning programs. Thank you, John and Kirsten, for all of your work, and thank you to the Virtual Arkansas team. You guys have done an amazing job in really helping us to think through and understand possibilities and options that are available. And thank you to the Arch 4 digital learning team for their work in reviewing the plan and helping to get us ready for this day as well. We will stay on for a few minutes if anybody has questions. If you've got what you need, then we are finished.
This is Chantel from Osceola. I do have a question on content only in regards to Canvas. We use Clever for single sign-on, and because and this may not be the forum for this question, but because Virtual Arkansas owns the URL for Canvas, we cannot utilize that piece because we have to have everything set up between Canvas and Clever. And we can't do that since Virtual Arkansas has a hosted URL. And I was just wondering if there was a opportunity, or if Virtual Arkansas is considering allowing us to set up our own Canvas and utilize that content.
Absolutely. That process is already in place.
Okay.
That's the content partnership program is what that is. That's where you have your own instance of Canvas.
Mhm.
And then you say, hey, we need the content so our teachers can utilize the content. So excuse me. So they aren't working so hard to learn how to design and develop their own content. Absolutely. That process is already in place.
Well, now we use it this year. We use Canvas in Virtual Arkansas. However, we cannot use our single sign-on process because Canvas and Clever in Virtual Arkansas, we can't have a mutual kind of import going on. So we would like to purchase Canvas on our own.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So that's
yeah,
possible.
absolutely. And the person I see in here now is Jeremy Woodward. He's our director of technology. He's going to be the one that can really answer that question well, because he's a genius when it comes to all that. But you can absolutely have your own instance, and that's what the content partnership program is. If it's content only, it is on our instance, or in the partnership program, you can be on our instance of Canvas, but you can also have your own instance. That's no problem.
Okay.
When you get asked the question during an interview, that you have to kind of respond right away. Right? Like, have we seen this? Yes.
Okay, any questions that you guys have? You got your Virtual Arkansas experts here. They can help you.
I wanted to ask one more question. Sorry to ask so many. So do you guys, your teachers that you're using, I'm assuming they're high quality teachers, and is there a way that we are able to see maybe a course that we can kind of look at to see?
Absolutely. We have, our teachers are of the highest quality. Yes. We, and our teachers go through the same evaluation that your teachers go through. We have an unbelievable PLC process, collaborative teams. We do, we have our teachers do their own research. We are very proud of our teachers. Absolutely. One of the reasons why we're able to have that, when we have a job opening, we typically have an unbelievable amount of interest in those positions. So we have a pretty robust selection process, and we're able to get great people. We want the best, and so we feel like we have the greatest teachers around for sure. So yes, if you want to contact us, if you want to look at any courses, send me or Miss Wilson an email. Jeremy Woodward's on here. Actually, Jeremy, will you please put your email address in the chat? If you send him an email directly and say, I would like to have access to the Algebra 1 course or something like that, then they'll put you in the course so you can look at it.
And Christine, I will add that in addition to the test evaluation, we layer a National Standards for Quality online teaching piece to our evaluation that we put our teachers through both. Because there are certain parts of the tests that are more directed towards brick and mortar, and we want our teachers to be delivering content that's online in the best way possible. And so we use a blended approach between tests, because I love the Charlotte Danielson model for growth, but I also want to make sure my teachers are being challenged in the area that they're teaching, in the environment they're teaching. So we also use the National Standards of Quality for online teaching to ensure that they're doing the best possible job they can.
We've got a question in the chat, Kirsten. Do parents already have access to the Canvas app to monitor their child's progress?
They presently do. We launched it this semester. We went through a pilot last fall with those of our students that were virtual with us. The parent app was available to our schools that were consortium in the fall. And then we went through a pilot time in the fall to make sure things are working. In fact, I am presently using the app to spur on a 15-year-old procrastinator in my house. To make sure that he gets some assignments turned in. So yes, the parent app is accessible right now and will be a part of what we do in the fall.
I wanted to show you something real quick on our website. If you go to the parent resources, right here, that's where you find the parent guide, but also it talks about monitoring students, and it says download the parent Canvas app, click here for instructions. So they just have to go there, and any parent can look at that and get the parent app and link to their students. I also have a child that's taking 3 courses through Virtual Arkansas this year, and I pull that out every day, glance at her work, and one time I saw 68%. And so I just went up to her and I said, "What's going on here?" She explained it to me. Everything was going to be fine. So it was great.
And I will also say that when we present the webinar this January, when we did our parent webinar, that was where we launched the Canvas app. So parents got an early preview that they could have access to that, anyone that attended our webinar. And then after our webinars were completed, then it went out live and a message that was sent out to all our parents that have correct emails with us. And then we shared with the schools too, so they could get the information out. And we'll do that much in the same way when we do the webinars in the fall. We will share with parents that they have that access to monitor. And typically our parent webinars happen within the first week into possibly the second week, just depending on when school starts and how things fall. We set up those parent webinars then to support parents once students are already in the courses.
Okay, any other questions you guys have? And Christine, did you see Jeremy's added something in the chat there? Okay.
All right. Don't hesitate to reach out and call us, or go to the website, set up a meeting, and we'll get with you individually if you need.
Yes. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you doing this today. In the Arch-Ford region, we will be back next Friday, 9 o'clock, continuing our blended and virtual support. And I will email you this week with the specific topic that we will be talking about. But yeah, please reach out if you need anything. We are here to help you. You'll have a great day and stay warm. Okay, Kirsten, thank you so much. I think I've got everything that I need, and I went